Well, happy Friday, everybody. Pastor Steve here, and as always, thank you so much for joining me for today's devotion. We are in Proverbs 21. I also want to be encouraging you to pray for myself and Monisa and all of our Southern Baptist family as I don't know how many, 10, 12, 15,000 of us will gather in Dallas this next week for the annual meeting of the Southern Baptist Convention. We'll fly out Sunday afternoon after I preach here Sunday morning, come back Thursday evening. So we'll be out there for the pastors' conference and the North American Mission Board luncheon and the also the sessions of the Southern Baptist Convention. So would you pray for us, safety and travel, good experience, but also just for our convention, for it to go well and God to bless us. I look forward to the NAM luncheon. That's one of my favorite things as we get to hear more about what God is doing in North America with church planting and so on. So anyway, just wanted to share that with you. I will be here Sunday morning preaching, and then we'll head to the airport. All right, today, Proverbs chapter 21. Proverbs chapter 21. I've mentioned before, I really enjoy reading one of these Proverbs every week because of just the practical reminders of important principles and lessons and truths in life. And I want to share a couple with you today from this chapter. And I haven't said anything about any of these kind of verses in the previous 20 chapters, but I'm going to today. So I just want to say up front, ladies, please listen, ladies, all the sisters out there, please don't shoot the messenger. Please don't shoot the messenger. Look with me at verse 9, okay? Verse 9. Where he says, "It is better to live in a corner of a roof than in a house shared with a contentious woman." And then similar to that, in verse 19, we read, "It is better to live in a desert land than with a contentious and vexing woman." Now, the word translated in verse 9 as a contentious woman, the NIV translates it a quarrelsome woman or a quarrelsome wife. The word means to quarrel or to contest things. It comes from a root word that means to judge. And so the idea is that this is a woman who is always judging, evaluating what her husband does, and it never measures up. And so she's always fussing at him for it, always criticized, because it just never measures up to her standard. She's always judging and evaluating. That's what the word means. Down in verse 19, it's a different word for contentious, but a similar word. So it means essentially the same thing. But what's added in verse 19 is in the New American Standard Translation, it says a vexing woman. The NIV translates that a nagging woman. And the root word, the Hebrew word here means to provoke. So it's the wife, the woman who's always, if in verse 9, she's always judging and evaluating what it does and it's not good enough, so she fusses at him. In verse 19, it's that she's always doing and saying things as a result of all that just keeps things stirred up, that keep him frustrated or whatever. That's the idea here. So verses say what they say. Something to think about. Now, one more thought on this particular chapter in Proverbs, and that's verse 17. Verse 17, where we read, "He who loves pleasure will become a poor man." Now, does that mean you're never to have fun? No, but look at it closely. He who loves pleasure will become a poor man, and he who loves wine and oil will not become rich. In our culture, 2025, I would describe it like this. You ever known someone who always had to have the newest toy? Always had to have a lot of toys? Got to have the newest, the greatest, the grandest. And what do? They spend a lot of money and they never get ahead. And then the second part of the verse is addictions, whether it's to alcohol, to drugs, to gambling. That if you always have to have the latest toy or you become addicted to something, chances are you're not going to get ahead financially. You're going to either end up in poverty or just barely get by. There's an old adage that I think is wise, and it's this: when it comes to your money, the old principle is this: pay God, pay self, live on the rest. In other words, when you get money, the first thing you do is you pay God. Now, most people don't do that. They pay themselves, and if there's anything left over, they'll pay God. But no. Biblically, you give your tithe. It's the first fruits. It's what we've been reading in the book of Exodus the last few weeks. Okay, the firstborn, the first fruits, the tithe is the first. You pay God first. Then you pay yourself. What does that mean? Savings, retirement, and then you live on the rest. So 10% to God, 10% to savings or retirement or a combination thereof, and 80% you live on. Follow that rule of thumb, that principle, and you will be fine. Reverse those and just live first, and then maybe I can save and invest for retirement, and then maybe I can give to God. You're never going to get it. Never going to get it right. Just pay God first, then pay yourself with retirement and savings, and then you live on the rest. And that is how the wise people do it. Well, that's the word for today. Again, I appreciate your prayers for us while we're in Dallas for the SBC next week. Also for this coming Sunday morning, pray God gives you an opportunity to invite someone to come with you. I look forward to seeing you and your friend Sunday morning. God bless you, everybody. And then Monday, we'll have another devotion. We'll be back wrapping up the book of Exodus. We will be in chapter 39. Have a great weekend. See you Sunday.